Welcome back to Grumpy Vet Garage. I'm the Grumpy Vet, and today we're working on something not normally in the garage, but my daughter's 2019 Jeep Renegade with the 1.3 MultiAir. Basically, it's a Fiat engine, turbocharged. Good little engine. But we're going to change the oil on this Jeep. My assistant today is my daughter Victoria. Right there. It's a little cold this morning, so we're doing our best to stay warm. First thing you're going to need to do on this vehicle is lift it up. There is a skid plate underneath the vehicle, and I would say probably ramps would be the best way to do this, but we're employing some jack stands. So I'll turn my light off, see which one's better. Maybe with the light. Okay, so we have used jack stands. Those jack stands are currently sitting on the cross member. Not exactly ideal. I know there's jack points on the outside, but it seemed like it made the back end light almost like it was teeter-tottering on the jack stand. So we moved them further forward, safety first. Also left the jack in place just because of safety. Why would I pull it down when I can just leave it right where it's at? But the main thing you're needing to do underneath here is remove this skid plate. So there's typically Torx, T30 Torx that are holding on this plate, but the previous owner, if I can get it to zoom in here, has replaced those factory T30s with hex bolts. So good on them, makes it easier, but yours is most likely not going to have hex bolts. It should be T30s that are holding this big plate, which is terrible the way I panned it, this big plate underneath the vehicle. So we're going to stop right now and remove this skid plate. Okay, so we've removed the skid plate. It may not be a skid plate, maybe more like an aerodynamic plate, built for speed. But what you're going to need to remove is there's 4 bolts. So 1, and then 2, 3, 4, and then screws. There are screws on the side that hold it to the inner fender liner. So there's one here. There should be one there, but ours is missing one. It's lighter, so now it's it's faster. But we had 2 on this side because we don't want to be so light that we embarrass everybody else on the road. So okay, so now we've relocated underneath the Jeep. Locate the drain plug and the oil filter. So on the 1.3 MultiAir turbo, the engine is on the passenger side. So it's very important that the oil drain plug on the oil pan is this plug right here. Not over here, not the transmission drain, but engine oil drain plug. And then right in front of it is the oil filter. So of course we'll need to drain the oil and remove the oil filter. So we'll do that next. Drain plug pulled. For your information, it is a 13 millimeter. Has like a gasket style seal on it. Looks good. Gonna reuse it. So we're done draining the oil and went ahead and put the plug back in again, 13 millimeter. It does not need to be smoked on. The lovely person before us that had this vehicle, or the oil tech, or whoever Hercules was that decided to smoke the steel plug back into the aluminum pan, thank you for that, but it doesn't need to be tightened down like a ridiculous amount. It was way too tight. So remember, you're screwing into aluminum. Maybe it's magnesium. Either way, a soft metal. Don't just smoke it down. It's not a head bolt on an engine. It's just a drain plug. So not super tight, but of course tight. You don't want it to come loose. But yeah, it's not 100 foot-pounds. Next, remove the oil filter and drain the oil. It's a vertical facing filter, So there's really no way around it. It's going to run down the side and run down the side of the pan. So be prepared for that. On the positive side, with it being a vertical facing filter, we could pre-fill it with oil before reinstalling it. But just be prepared. That oil filter is going to make a little bit of a mess. This is the oil filter we use to replace on the 1.3 MultiAir turbo. As you can see, it's a Fiat filter. It has Dodge and all that kind of stuff, markings all over it, but it is a Fiat filter because the engine is a Fiat engine. Went ahead and pre-filled that filter, and I'll grab the oil real quick to show you what we put in. The 1.3 MultiAir calls for a 0W30. The actual spec from Mopar is not this spec. I'll put in the description what the actual spec is. New filters installed. No need to use any kind of wrench to install this filter. I just use my man wrench and just turn the thing on. You just get it hand tight as you can get it with your hand. No need for tools, and you should be good. Make sure to put a little oil on the O-ring. You don't want to have it go on dry. That's how it potentially could damage the seal. It's not likely, but it could damage the seal going on. So just tighten it up by hand as much as you can, and that is pretty good. And you're done on the oil filter install. So for filling the oil, I'm not going to insult anybody's intelligence. That's the oil cap. But what is interesting on the 1.3 MultiAir is the oil cap is also the dipstick. So that's a bit of an interesting thing. I don't know why somebody hasn't thought of that before. It's kind of an interesting concept. Why have two different orifices for, filling and then checking? Why not just have one? But of course, this is where we'll fill our oil. So we filled the engine with 4.5 quarts of the Pennzoil 0W30. Okay, so the skid plate is installed. Make sure that you start all the bolts and screws before you try to tighten them down to prevent any kind of misalignment and making it difficult for you to get all the bolts and screws started. So engine's running, and we checked for leaks. No leaks can be seen. With the skid plate on, you can see the oil plug and the oil filter to see if there's any leaks. So you want to check to make sure there's anything going on with that. But to reset your oil indicator, what you're going to want to do is, with the engine off and the car off, don't put your foot on the brake. And you're going to hit the start button, and then put your foot onto the gas and go all the way to the floor 3 times with on the gas pedals, so 3 times all the way to the floor, and then turn it off. Then you can put your foot on the brake and start the vehicle. And then that will reset the oil change required indicator. If you have any questions or anything about anything I did, please leave it in the comments. Of course, I would appreciate a like and subscribe to my channel. I know my channel's growing. I'm really just starting out, but support that you guys can provide for me would be greatly appreciated. So for the Grumpy Vet, I'm going to sign off. Thank you.